in the world of YouTube. This is going to be a quick video. This is our first reaction video, TNGS Reacts. This will not be just exclusive to House of Dragon, House of the Dragon, but also we'll be reacting to movies. We'll be reacting to other TV shows. Katrina might even come up here by herself sometimes and react to like Housewives or something like that. So look forward to more content like that. But right now we're doing the House of the Dragon, so we're excited about that. First episode, in my opinion, I've seen mixed reviews out there, but I think it's cool. And for those that don't know what House of the Dragon is, it's a spin-off series of Game of Thrones. It's actually a prequel. What's the word?
Prelude?
Yeah.
Prequel?
Prequel series. There we go.
Yeah.
It's a prequel to the Game of Thrones. This is set about 200 years before Game of Thrones, so we're really excited about it. If you're Game of Thrones fans, feel free to chime in. How did you feel about the first episode? What characters are you most excited about? What scenes stood out to you the most? Any scenes that stood out to you? I could think of one that might have, based off how your reaction when you was watching it.
What scene you think that is?
By the way, spoiler alert. So if you have not watched the first episode of House of Dragon, you might want to click off. These are for those who have already watched it. We'll be reacting to the show. Comes out every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll react on Mondays following 9 p.m. Eastern.
What part of the episode do you think was my best part?
So, I'm not saying it was your favorite part. I'm just saying that like it was a pretty gruesome scene. The birth. Remember the cesarean?
I didn't like that.
I didn't say you like it. I just thought it was a scene that probably would have stood out. Cause I was like, even I was like, oh shoot, like.
Well, yeah. So the scene he's talking about, it was when the queen, I don't remember her name, but she was giving birth, and it was a breech birth, meaning that the baby was coming out feet first versus head first.
Yeah.
Now in real life, typically it is a serious situation. Typically doctors would go in, do a C-section, or they would try to like put their hands into the woman's vagina and try to flip the baby around.
Mm-hmm.
In this situation, they basically told the king, hey, you have to make a decision. Your wife's gonna die either way, but we have an opportunity to save the baby if you allow us to cut her open. So they're cutting her open. I'm thinking to myself, why not at least slice her throat, give her some medication or something so she could die a peaceful death versus sitting there suffering. I mean, can you imagine being pregnant and someone slicing you from here to here with no drugs? Oh, it just looked like pain, and she just died, just bled out. I'm like, this is just too much for me. But I guess I don't want to say favorite moment, but the moment where I feel like it was what they call it, the Easter egg moment.
Oh yeah. I think you would say Easter egg.
The Easter egg moment for me was when the king finally announced that he was going to pick his daughter to be in his succession plan, and when he was talking to her about winter is coming, how you need to be able to unite all the kingdoms. I don't know if you saw it, but the little dagger that Arya had, Valerian, the little like dagger that killed the White Walker was
same dagger.
Was the same dagger. I was like, oh, that's an Easter egg. So
yeah, and then the whole talking about the actually calling out A Song of Ice and Fire, the dream.
Yeah,
it's called A Song of Ice and Fire, and we know that is basically the saga that we watched with the first Game of Thrones, looking at Jon Snow, looking at Daenerys Targaryen, how a Targaryen would have to sit on the throne again to unite the people to come up against the White Walkers. And in a lot of ways, you see that played by two people. While Daenerys had all the power, Jon was the pull or the force that really brought people together to really fight the White Walkers in the end. So I thought that was dope. I'm excited for, we got some brothers and sisters in there this time, and they represent the Valerian family, right? So, and for those that don't know, there are actually going to be a little bit of a time jump. So if you look at a lot of the actors we see now, they're going to be older throughout the show. So Corlys, his children, are going to be main factors. For those that follow some of the old Game of Thrones books and read them, they allude to these characters. And I think it was cool that, a lot of times in popular culture, we're always complaining about their whitewashing characters. In this case, they blackwashed them. The Valerian family is not known to be or described to be a black family if you follow the Game of Thrones mythos, but they decided to make them black. So that was kind of cool. I mean, I know it's a simple thing. People be like, what does color have to do with Game of Thrones? It's about representation, right? And we find representation for everything else out here. So it was nice to see us get representation, even though we're not really represented in this storyline. But for them to fix that in there somehow, I thought that was kind of cool.
Right, because Game of Thrones is created to mimic medieval time.
Yeah.
In medieval times, typically, you're thinking about, you know, kingdoms in Europe, and at that time they were pretty white. So,
and even then, that's kind of whitewashed, right? Because you had the Moors, so you had these educated people around.
But they weren't necessarily in the kingdom. They more so came to Europe to educate and help them during the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily like a kingdom in Europe per se.
Exactly.
I guess another character that I felt in this first episode that was like, all right, he gonna be a hotmess.com. That's that brother.
Oh yeah, the brother.
He looks sinister.
Damon.
He
Damon.
just look crazy.
Yeah, Damon's interesting. I can see that's gonna be kind of spicy. And knowing what I know about the Targaryen family tree, that's gonna be interesting how they weave that together. I don't know if that's gonna happen this season or we won't see that to next season. But I do know that there's a time jump already within this season. So we saw the young version primarily of Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, but there's an older actress, Emma D'Arcy, that's going to be playing her primarily through a lot of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how that character grows and morphs into where she's at. And it looks like, based off how many episodes they have the younger version playing, there's going to be a lot of like flashbacks to her younger years throughout the series. So we'll see how they put that together. But same thing for Alicent Hightower. There's a young version of her, and then there's an older version of her. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but she's going to be a key character going forward in the series. If you know anything about the Hightower.
I don't think I know Hightower.
And that was the one, the Hand of the King. That's his daughter. His name is also Hightower.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to relate it back to Game of Thrones. I don't think I remember a Hightower in Game of Thrones. I do remember in this first episode, there was a Baratheon, there was a Stark, there was a Dorne member, but I didn't hear about.
They said he was Dornish, but they didn't say he was of House Martell.
What's the house with the rose?
Oh man. See,
starts with a T, right?
Yeah, Tyrell. I didn't hear Tyrell,
and what else are we missing? I didn't hear Lannister.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any Lannisters yet.
So I didn't hear Tyrell, I didn't hear Lannister. Who else are we missing? It's 4 or 5 houses. 5?
I think
there's
7 main houses.
There was Dorne, Lannister, Stark, Targaryen,
Baratheon, and they mentioned the Vale. Where
they did mention the Vale. Okay, yeah.
And that's one of the other main locations or the houses.
So far, I would say there was a mention of at least more than half.
Yeah, I think the only one we're not really hearing of is House Tyrell, and we haven't heard anything about basically Lannister. And from what I remember of Game of Thrones, if you read the books, Tywin Lannister was the hand to the Mad King.
Right.
And if memory serves me correct, the Lannister name kind of comes to power under Tywin. So, that might be a house that's not there yet. I think it's cool, though. We're going to see more about I think we're going to learn more about Dorne in this series. It's nice to see so many Targaryens, because when we watch Game of Thrones, there's no Targaryens.
There was just 2, and then there became 1.
And I think this is going to make sense of, why there's so few Targaryens by the time we see this. Obviously, there's the war with Robert Baratheon, but I guess we're going to find out that there's some more things that's going to happen before that time.
There were a few Baratheons, too. It was just Baratheon and his was it his son, or was it his son?
It was all 3 brothers. Initially, remember?
That's right.
Because they all went to war.
Stannis, I completely forgot.
Stannis and
Stannis
Lemley or whatever his name was. Yeah.
Gendry, but then it was Baratheon's bastard son, Gendry.
And then
it was Stannis, and then it was the other brother who was in love with a Tyrell's son.
Yeah. So you had a few Baratheons, but obviously that line almost got wiped out.
What
basically.
Game of Thrones did, as far as representation, that you can say is they had LGBTQ representation. Mm-hmm. They had some black representation. They had women. They had men. Majority of the cast obviously was white, but again, it's supposed to mimic a period piece. That's almost like if we were to see a show mimicking Africa.
If it's a period piece, even if it's fantasy,
you would expect black people. So I understand.
Although they haven't always done that, right? If you look at movies like Gods of Egypt and all of that, I mean, come on, they had Gerard Butler playing Set, and I was like, this dude still has an Irish accent. like, come on, what are y'all doing?
Playing African.
So, no, this series I'm actually excited about. I know some people were talking trash about it, but
Who was fucking trash?
I've seen people on Facebook were like, nah, I'm not feeling it. And it's like, well, it's hard to say that about any show when it's the first episode. I think you got to give it time to breathe, right? Then take into account that if you think about the first episode of Game of Thrones, it seems slow.
The whole first season. But it was like chess. It was setting the stage.
But then when you go back, you realize, dang, that first season was great. Because the way that they move slow enough, so that way the anticipation and the anxiety, and then of course that first season sets the stage. They killed Ned Stark,
and he was a main character.
And I'm just kind of like, hey, this guy's been in Game of Thrones. He's been in all these different movies. He's been in Ronin. He's a known established actor, so surely he gonna be alive for a minute. And when they took him out so fast, and then obviously, watching this first episode, it's like Game of Thrones is Game of Thrones again, or House of the Dragon.
The queen, and she was out.
Yeah, they're already willing to take lives already. So, and they're already building up like some tension that I think that's going to pay off later. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think. What are your predictions while we're ending?
All right, yeah. So we'll end on some predictions. I predict that. Because remember, they talk about the Targaryens all the time. There's a lot of incest, and they like to kind of. So I do see that there are going to be some relationships that happen within the family. Even if we don't know all those characters yet, I do predict some form of relationships, and then probably family lines spawning from certain members.
I think the queen and her uncle definitely. He was giving her necklaces this first episode. They were real chummy. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And technically that's his niece technically, right? Yeah.
I see that a mile away.
And then I feel like Rhaenys, who was passed up, who is the aunt of their current king, Viserys, I see her character playing a key role. Same thing for her husband, Corlys Velaryon. So I'm curious to see, and then what those kids grow up to end up being. Cause
I see that brother being a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He told his brother he was weak, so I feel like he gonna be out here really giving him the smoke and try to wipe him out.
And I think there's gonna be some beef between the Hand, Hightower, Lord Hightower, and the brother for sure.
Yeah, they got a serious. He literally injured his son.
Yeah.
Badly.
And I'm curious to see. The Starks, their role in this particular series, and I'm curious to see some of the other families, how they play a role, like what level of power or respect they have in this series. Last series they had a lot because the Baratheons and the Starks were close, right? And Lord Baratheon had became king, and as a result the beef became between the Lannisters and the Starks. This time, the main beef won't be Lannisters and Starks, but I'm curious to see who's going to be the primary family beefing with the Targaryens.
I hope to see more of the Veil.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in Game of Thrones, like we saw some of it, and her sister was actually cuckoo, but when I look at the Veil, like they reminded me of like King Arthur and the Knights in the Round Table. They came riding in to save Jon Snow and all the horses. Like I kind of want to know more about the Veil. Yeah,
that would be dope. And then also, I like the cinematography of how they have the city looking richer and better. Because you got to think, before Game of Thrones, and we don't actually get to see it, but we know that there was a war, the War of the Usurper, as they call Robert Baratheon, when he fights the Targaryen family, right? So this is the Red Keep and everything as we know it. That is still a war. If you notice, this time it actually looked more put together.
Which one was the Red Keep? Which part in the show?
The main like where you see the throne room with all the swords. Notice there's way more swords, right?
Yeah.
The throne. Yeah, because
that wasn't the Red Keep though. I thought the Red Keep was like a place that they congregate. That's where she blew everybody up in Game of Thrones. It didn't have like a stadium.
No, that was a citadel.
Oh,
that was a citadel.
The Red Keep is
made primarily where the throne area where they live.
There was definitely more swords for sure.
More swords, and the area, just the whole King's Landing actually looked more put together, because this would be post-war, because they're coming off a time of peace still.
I hope with the Easter egg, and then I'm done. This is my last thing. I want to see how the dagger was passed down, obviously by Targaryens, and how did it get to the man with many faces?
Oh yeah,
because he gave it to Arya.
That's true. So obviously,
how did that happen?
Some wealth is going to be, and mind you, this is 200 years, 172 to be exact, before the time frame that we know of in Game of Thrones. So it will be interesting to see how certain family heirlooms and how certain wealth gets traded over and why certain families are in possession of certain things and not.
And where the man in many faces, like, does he come from a family? Does the art come from something? I'm just want to know. So
yeah. So it should be pretty cool. So look, thank you guys for joining us on our first TNGS Reacts video. Today we did the House of the Dragon. For those that watch it, so stay tuned for more React videos. I'm really excited to see Katrina do some more, cause she be trying to talk to me about, you know, the Housewives franchise and stuff, and I'll just be like, not interested, right? But there's so many of you that do follow, and I think it'd be a good place to bring it up. And plus, you know, we're all nerds over here. We love movies and cinema, so we want to bring. She's a nerd too, y'all. Like, I ain't here by myself. I don't know if y'all noticed, I got my little medieval times music playing in the background.
The thing is, did you see in the post credits it was the Game of Thrones song?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they kept it.
Yeah, I was happy because that's such a legendary song. I'm happy that they kept it in there. I would have played it here.
Why you gonna play it?
Well, because I'm gonna get the copyright hit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just playing some generic medieval, you know, fantasy music. You know, like, I'm trying to make sure that we can monetize, baby. Gotta monetize. Look, thank you guys for watching again. It's your boy Jay DaCosta.
It's your girl Katniss.
And together.